Music is a vehicle that can take you anywhere you want to go, anytime you want to be there. No matter what you do, why you do it, who you choose to do it with or for, music will ensure that the moment is always right. The saxophone is the luxury sports models that insists that you experience the ultimate groove that sets the mood for whatever you choose. Mighty Horn Music presents the COVID Concert Series with saxophone live from the hot, smooth jazz, top 40, R&B, inspirationals, and more. Thank you for tuning in. You are now on a musical first-class journey to anywhere you want to be.
Well, hello. Here's hoping you are having a wonderful Wednesday evening. And thank you for hanging out with me. It is 9:15, and I promise you that I started at 9 o'clock. However, I looked at my settings, and it looked as if it was set to private. And what that means is if it's set to private, that means nobody can actually get the link. So I'm back, and I'm starting again. I am live from another room in the Hollywood home studio, and we're just going to rock and roll, and we're talking about talking. You may ask, what does that mean? How do you talk about talking? Well, I'm going to try my best to explain. I've been bit by a bug that suggests that maybe I should bring awareness to how we communicate in society, particularly amongst each other. Personal relationships, friendships, relationships with significant others, particularly, and in groups even. Sometimes we will hear something and we will, not understand what someone is saying. Someone will say something and actually mean something else. And oftentimes, there's confusion or misunderstanding, and people, before you know it, they might be fussing or fighting, or they're in some kind of disagreement, and before you know it, they're not talking. And they're maybe even angry, and before you know it, they're whispering and talking about, well, you know what he or she did or said. No, let me tell you what he or she said to me. And sometimes, if you have an ought with your brother or your sister, you're supposed to go to them, and you're supposed to work it out. And if that doesn't work, maybe you're supposed to go and get someone else, and maybe you try to solve disputes, because there's no reason why intelligent people should not be able to at least get along. And oftentimes we don't get along, and I think I know why, and that's why I'm bringing awareness to how we communicate. There's something called points of references. There's something called universal principles. There's something called law, and it's important that we follow those to the best of our ability, especially when there's any kind of disagreement or chaos going on. If we can take those things under consideration, we don't even have to go to court. We don't have to fight in the street. We don't have to, be angry. We don't have to physically fight. But we have to be mature and understand what it means to follow universal principles, points of references, and even law. And that's what I'm going to be talking about, throughout this Swym, Pwym. Say what you mean, play what you mean. Sunday nights I've been going live with my saxophone, and because things have been picking up, I'm kind of not getting away from it. I'm just taking advantage of some of the opportunities that have been coming my way. So you may not see me as much on Sunday night, but I promise you it is not over, and I will be back and doing that regularly. But for now, I'm going to continue with the spinoff, which is Swym Pwym. It is the talk show portion, and that is what I'm doing right now. And I'm going to try to get my caller on the line one more time and see how this works this time. If you'd like to chat with me, I'd love to chat with you. All you have to do is send me an email to Travis Bridges and the number 2 at AOL.com, and we can talk, or we can talk about something. And I'm looking forward to.
Hello.
Hey, you.
So are we on?
Yeah, we're definitely on now. Um,
Oh, okay.
we were actually on before, but it was set to private, and I don't think anyone would then have access to it. So now we're not set to private; it's set to public, and we're just going to rock and roll with it the way it is. But we were talking about your situation. You said I blessed you today, and you were talking about the music that I uploaded to my channel as well as I posted it on Facebook. And you said you were blessed by that. You want to repeat that again? I'm not looking for accolades, but go ahead.
I sure was. Let me tell you, when you sent me the videos, I can tell you unequivocally that it moved my spirit. As I spoke to you a few weeks ago, I don't know, a month ago when you played Deliver Me, I had told you how that song does something for me. I mean, I was jamming in my house. I put it up so loud, my nephews were like, get out of here, auntie. I was like, I don't care. And I didn't know the blessing song. I did hear that before, but I never heard you play that as well as the. I didn't know anything about the Jesus Alive song. So it was just so uplifting. It really made me have a wonderful afternoon because I felt so good from it. So I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing your gift. And yeah, there you go.
My pleasure.
YouTheBomb.com.
Thank
And
you.
you know it, man. Keep doing
will.
what you're doing because people want to hear it. Lord, they do.
I will. I will take your word for that. This Sunday was a little different from any engagement I've ever had. I prefer to play, in church. Of course, I'll go anywhere I'm invited within, within decency. Some places I get invited to play and I just can't do it. It's just not my thing. But when I get an invitation to play at church, I always take it, and it always, takes me back to my roots because, of course, that's the first place I ever was able to share my gift was in church. But this Sunday was a little different. As I was saying to you, the last couple of months have been challenging from a personal perspective. I've dealt with some pretty rough things, and in order for me to deal with that, the program that you're on, 75 Hard, I did, and I finished about a month ago. It did something for me. It gave me accountability for myself with everything I was going through. It caused me to be accountable for myself, and it caused me to keep track of time and to stay focused on things that would enhance my health, for one, physically, mentally, and emotionally. So by the time I came out of that, I was feeling good, and then I got this opportunity to play. So it's like, whoa, I'm going to really show off. So it was an honor to be able to share that, and I'm glad you like it. Thank you.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So, and I know a lot of people do love it too, and it's going to go around, and people are going to hear it, and everybody that feels that, everybody that gets the opportunity to be able to watch it, it's going to touch them. It has to, unless they're just not human. And that's what I told my nephew today. They might be young and don't appreciate good music, but I told them today, I said, listen to me. This kind of stuff touches you. If it doesn't touch you, something is terribly wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I said, but I'm going to excuse y'all because y'all young and don't know no better. But any adult person, it has to be. I just don't understand how it couldn't.
Well,
So,
the old saints would say that youth is wasted on the young. So there's something about hearing things that are edifying when you're young. You don't appreciate it sometimes until you're old. So they're gonna remember their auntie listening to that type of music, one day, and they're gonna say, "Now I understand," because we had to do it. We had to get to this point too.
But you know what? I remember growing up, I used to listen to my parents' music. Listen, my two favorite musicians, artists, when I was a kid growing up was Barry White and Johnny Taylor.
Mm-mm.
So Johnny Taylor had this CD, not a CD, a cassette. And I don't know how I found him. I must have my mom or something. And I'm talking about, I'm in high school, okay? And you could not talk to me about no Johnny Taylor. That was like, oh my God! It was funny because some of his stuff is hilarious to me because he's like, who's doing you when you're doing somebody else or something like that. But it was so true, and it was just, and his songs are quick. They're like 2.5, 3, 4 minutes, not long, but really jazzy and some really cool lyrics. And I always liked music that my parents liked when I was even a kid. So maybe that's just me, you know.
Yeah, you have an old soul.
I'm sure when I got a little older and I liked I did used to go, I went through my 2 Live Crew phase and some of that, and they probably wasn't listening to that. But I definitely did have an appreciation for some good music when I was a kid. But, these kids are different these days.
Of course. Different. And it's okay. But I promise you, we may not be around to see it, I don't know. But they're going to remember what that felt like to hear their auntie turning up that music today. They'll reflect on it.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. And then I was in the car because I had to do a replay, and I was just dancing and feeling. They're like, "Look at me!" And my nephew just looked at me. He's like so embarrassed to go to pick up one of his friends. And do you think I care? Absolutely not. Mm-hmm. So my friend, when his little friend came in the car, said, "Listen, we're having joy today, okay? So just get with the program."
Well, speaking of getting with the program, as much as I'd like to keep you on for the whole hour, I'm not going to keep you long. I do have another caller that's waiting for me that I'm going to call in a few minutes. But before I go, I want to let you know what we're going to discuss, this week and over the next few weeks. The meaning of words, the same and similar. Some words are similar, but they're not the same. And being careful, when we talk, words are powerful and they have meanings for a reason. And, we can cut down on a lot of confusion if we think sometimes before we speak. And if we use words based on what they mean instead of how we feel, we can cut down on a lot. So when we're communicating and we're talking, if we say what we mean, we stand a better chance of cutting down on the confusion. And I want to bring awareness to words that are the same and words that are similar. Also, why time is important. Why universal principles and points of reference is important. Why law is important to solving issues. And how feelings, emotions, thoughts, views, and beliefs conflict with those points of references and law. So if you have any questions for me before I go on, I just kind of want, your feedback, on why is it important to use words and say what you mean and to refer to principles and points of references and law and, why your feelings, can conflict and create more static in the middle of static if you're not mature enough to remove your personal feelings, thoughts, beliefs, and emotions, from a situation. So I'm going to let you respond to that, and then I'll let you go.
Well, that's a whole lot.
It is.
What you just said right there.
Well, let me narrow it down real quick. Let me narrow it down real quick. I said, let me narrow it down real quick. Why do you think it's important to, for one, think before we speak and use the word that we mean to say when we're trying to convey something instead of focusing on how we feel? It doesn't mean, totally negate your feelings. But if you want to minimize confusion and, you have to say what you mean and then, of course, mean what you say. So my question to you directly is, why is it important to think before you speak and use, the words that you mean? Gosh, I'm making it long again. Well, first of all, why is it important to say what you really mean?
I got it now. I got it. Well, the first part, I think, why it's important is because just from your explanation, it's important because it will minimize confusion and miscommunication, right? Mm-hmm. Which will hopefully minimize arguments and whatever. It's also important because I feelings tend to get us in a lot of trouble. Thankfully, as we get older, we do realize, or we try to, our maturity levels hopefully help us to understand, like, some of those things don't matter, or just say what you're gonna say. Like, listen, that and like, this is what I need you to do, or this is what you have to do, or you don't have to, because I'm gonna just not be around this because that's not what I like, right? And be able to communicate that. But confrontation is a difficult thing for most, I would say. There's some people that don't have a problem with it, but usually those people, I almost think sometimes they actually maybe get off on it a little bit. It's about finding a balance, being able to say what you mean, and be able to also maybe possibly have to do that with a little grace at times, especially if it's something that the other person may be offended or may be upset from it because they're still in their feelings. We have to understand that even though we might be communicating and saying what we need and are mature enough to handle it, doesn't mean the recipient, the person we're talking to, is at the same place. And I believe that is what happens a lot of times while we have issues in communication. Because there will be two different people, and maybe they can't never get to the same place. That may be a question, because I don't know. I think sometimes, how that expression, let's agree to disagree.
I totally don't like that. I don't think it's an oxymoron. You can't agree to disagree. I mean, I know people say that when they don't want to, face the fire sometimes. Well, let's just agree to disagree. No, let's really get to the bottom of what is and be okay with it, whether we like it or not. Which brings me to my point about, universal principles. There are certain things that are already in place that we can't change. And regardless of how we feel, we have to, resort, if that's the correct word I'm looking for, to universal principles in times of chaos, or points of references, things that are already established as to what is supposed to happen, and maybe even law. Those three things are important: universal principles, points of references, and law. You have to be mature enough to be okay if you don't like something, because when you say some people will never meet, well, why? Why can't two people find a place to rest? And the reason is because maybe...
But they probably can, but some people can, but it may not be in the text that you may want it to be. Maybe some people might give up, right, on trying to explain what they're trying to say to someone if the other person is, for some reason, not getting it, not understanding it, or they don't want to, So I feel like, yeah, you can come to an agreement to say, okay, I got it. But then some people might say, you know what? You may have gotten it, but it's still not working for me in some kind of way, And I think that's okay. Because it's just not always going to be into a place where, everybody's on the same page and everybody's just, happy or in agreement with everything. That's just not realistic. So, and I don't care about, even though some people may resort to the fact that you say, okay, this is a principle, but they may not accept that as a principle and be okay, and we have to be okay with that.
Well, how can you not? Okay, let me just ask you a question. Listen, I've got to time us here. We're going to stop in 7 minutes. But I want to ask you a question. How do you not agree with something that's a principle? Who are you to not agree with a principle or a law or a point of reference? Well, I don't understand what you just said. Somebody may not agree with it, with a principle. How do you not? Gravity says if you jump off the building without wings or a parachute, you're going down. I don't care how mad you are about that. How do you disagree with the principle?
Okay, maybe not that particular principle, but I don't know. I'm just thinking that there could possibly be something that somebody may not agree with. I don't. Example, unfortunately, is not coming to my thoughts in this moment.
Okay, well then either way, okay,
sure
hold
that
on.
there's some principle out there that
Hold on.
people that doesn't agree with.
Okay,
I can't hear you.
you can't hear me? How about now?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
It was like, yeah.
Okay, so to say you can't to disagree with a universal principle is, let me come up with a nice word, is foolish. So how do you disagree with the universal principle?
I am saying, I'm not disagreeing. I'm saying, but you said universal, but what does that mean?
Okay, a universal principle is
What
something.
does that mean?
Okay.
That means that it's accepted by everybody?
No.
I mean, I understand you saying gravity, but.
But what?
I don't know. Are you talking because? Oh, you were not. Okay.
Okay, no. Okay, let me just let me identify with what a universal principle is. Hold on a second. Hold on. Let's identify with what a universal principle is, a point of reference, and a law. Okay, a universal principle is something that's set in place that nobody can change. I can't stop. Listen, spring comes after the winter, correct? Right?
Yes.
Okay, and after the spring,
correct.
Summer comes. Okay, I can't change that. Okay, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. That's a universal principle. Fire is hot, ice is cold. Those are universal principles. I can't change those. So why would I disagree with that? You know what? I kind of want the sun to rise, in the south tomorrow. What kind of person would I be if I'm disagreeing with a universal principle? Okay, now let's go on to a point of reference. Okay, so I'm trying to understand how do when you have a chaos or a disagreement, and you start with, first of all, a universal principle. It's like the least common denominator. A universal principle. You start there. Can you change that? No. Well, then you have to be accepting or okay with it. And a point of reference is something that what do you do in the case? It's just a point of reference. It's not a universal principle, but it's kind of sort of like the norm of what you do in a normal situation. Okay, if a person gets cut, the first thing you want to do is clean out, the wound. You want to dress it properly. You maybe put some pressure on it to stop it. You don't have to do that, but it's a point of reference. Somebody did that years ago, and they've proven that if you have a gunshot wound and you apply pressure on it, you can stop the blood from going until you can get to maybe apply a tourniquet or something like that. Those are just points of references. Why would I disagree if you have a serious injury and don't put pressure on it because I don't want to? It's just a point of reference. And a law is something that is governed by communities, states, countries. We have certain laws on the highway. If the speed limit is 45 and you're doing 80, why are you going to disagree with the traffic cop when you get pulled over? So to disagree with things that are established is the beginning of chaos or not accepting it. So why are there still?
So I got that.
Okay, so that's all.
How does change happen then?
Well, change happens first of all by being aware of it. That's what I'm bringing aware to the fact that when if there's any kind of issue, something needs to be checked. There's either a universal principle that's not being respected, a point of reference that's not being considered, a law that's not being abided by, or there's a ego that might need to be checked. So if you are an intelligent person, for lack of a better word, or if you're wise even, or if you are just a person who really wants peace, you are going to examine yourself in those situations based on those points of references, those universal principles, those laws. And when you get to the end, why still fight just because you don't like it? You might need to go and check your own attitude if you don't like, something that's already established. You don't have to like everything. But if it's, already been proven, it's already been established, I'm not saying you can't go against it, but, you know, that's where chaos comes from. But I'm going to try to close this out because I said I was going to let us go in 7 minutes and we're coming up on it. So unless you want to close out and make another point, I'm going to love on you and thank you for being here with me. But you've got to say something else. So you understand the point now of why it should be easy to
Yes, I
to
absolutely
settle.
do.
So am I on to anything?
Yes, you absolutely are. I understand what you're saying, and I think that keeping those things in mind, the points of references, the laws, and
Universal principles.
principles, would make it easier for people to get out of their feelings. But people got feelings, so.
Well, guess what?
So,
Guess what? I don't care about feelings.
I got it.
When it
But-
listen, I get accused of being tough, rough, and even mean sometimes. When I say, well, I don't care about somebody's feelings, doesn't mean I don't care that someone, is feeling bad. But when it comes to settling a dispute, your feelings can't be, the priority. But we better go now. I better let you go. You want to close out, or are you going to just cold turkey it?
No, I'm good. Thank you so much. I'm just fine. I'll continue to listen in, and that's it. So
Okay.
we'll continue to have more of these conversations as we go along and dig deeper into this more and more.
Okay. Well, I love you.
Okay.
I am grateful for you. I'm thanking you for being here with me. And of course, we talk almost every day anyway. I guess I'll holler at you tomorrow.
All right. Have a good night.
All right. Good night. Bye. Okay, that was my good old buddy. And just to wrap it up, if you're just joining, this is Swym Pwym. It's a spinoff from the COVID concert series that I started on Sunday nights due to COVID. I started playing my saxophone, and I'm still going to play. I'm just taking advantage of some of the opportunities that have been afforded to me, to get out and play and to do some different things. So I'm not stopping. I'm just, taking advantage of those opportunities. So if you don't see me on Sunday night, it's not that I've quit. It's that I'm just busy. But I'm going to try to hold on to my Wednesday night because this is just something else I'm just kind of working on. I want to bring awareness to communication, how we communicate, how we convey what it is we're trying to say, and how someone else may perceive that. Okay? So I do have another caller I'm going to go to. By chance, if you'd like for me to analyze something for you, or if you'd like to chat with me, I'd love to hear from you. Travis Bridges and the number 2 at AOL.com. It's okay if that email is not banging off the hook right now, but I've got a feeling that it will be in due season because I'm trying to get better at this, and I'm not looking for anyone to challenge me in any kind of way or to make me wrong. But either someone could either agree with me or just kind of point out how, what I've been led to do is either good, bad, or ugly. I welcome, all responses. I'm just trying to minimize chaos and confusion by being considerate of what's established already and how to reach, settlements without fussing or fighting. So I'm going to get my other caller on the phone, and we're going to chat a little bit. By the way, please subscribe if you're watching or listening. I need 1,000.
Hello?
Hey,
Hey, what's up?
how you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. We talked a little longer than I expected with my last caller, but we've got about 17 good minutes to get into something real good. And before I let you loose, I want to get some feedback from you on the meaning of words that are the same and words that are similar. Being careful when we're communicating to say exactly what we mean And if we're using a word, make sure that it is the word we're meaning to use and not something similar, because that's how confusion starts. And I don't know of any classes in school where people taught us how to focus and speak and say what we mean outside of just learning your ABCs and learning how to read and just communicate. I think it's very important to think before we speak and say exactly what we mean to minimize confusion. The meaning of words, why time is important, universal principles, points of references, and even the law, and how feelings, emotions, thoughts, views, and beliefs, can really conflict with those if we're not mature to be able to respect universal principles, points of references, and laws. So, when I spoke to you earlier, you had a little subject that you kind of wanted to run past me, and it was something in regarding double standards. So, without giving me everything, just give me the scenario and let's just talk about it. Double standards. First of all, what does that mean?
A double standard meaning it's okay for you and not okay for me.
How about it be okay for one person and not okay for another person?
That'll work too.
Okay. So what is the example? You're going to run past me. I want. Let me hear the example.
Well, I have a really good friend that we communicate, and we're friends. And his wife is wanting to go out of town. She just said, "You know what? I want to go out of town with a good friend of mine." And she doesn't do that very often. Whenever they do travel, they travel together, or they make plans together. But this particular time, she just wants to go alone and spend time with a friend of hers for a week. Now, that's a problem. He's yelling, screaming, no, you can't go, you can't do this, you can't do that. Or he's telling her, giving her ultimatums. However, on the flip side, he can go when he wants to go. He'll just say, I'm leaving, I'll be back in 2 days, or I'll be back in a week, or I'll be back, and just leave. And she doesn't question it, she doesn't say anything. But if she wants to do it, there's a problem. So he asked me, was she wrong? And I really want to call him out on it and say that you're being, double standard, and you're being a hypocrite. You're posing a double standard, you're being a hypocrite. So I want to kind of tread lightly because he's very upset right now, so I don't want to kind of ruffle his feathers even more with me. But I want to call him out. I really do, because it's not right. And I'm not going to agree with him because that's what he wants. But yeah, I'm right, right? No.
So
I just say nothing. I didn't say anything.
So what exactly do you want to call out?
That it's not right. If she wants to go, she should be able to go. And she shouldn't have to, lay out the entire itinerary for him because he doesn't do the same for her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think that's a little,
So my question is, what do you want to call him out on exactly? One sentence.
Because he's trying to make me agree with him that he's right, that she should disclose her itinerary for her trip. And I told him I just won't comment on it because I don't think he's right. I want to let him know you don't disclose your itinerary. Why are you making her disclose hers?
Maybe he's not making her. Maybe he's asking her to.
No, he's demanding that you tell me where you going, who you going with, where you going to be. But he doesn't do the same thing.
Okay, well, slow down. Is she refusing to disclose that information?
She is.
So she doesn't want to say who she's going out of town with and where they're going.
Well, she's just saying she's going to spend a week with one of her good friends from, when they grew up together. One of her good friends from her childhood.
Uh-huh.
And he's saying, I don't know this person. I've never met this person. How do I know it's a girl? But when you leave, you don't say nothing. You don't even say, hey, I'll be gone,
Okay, slow down. Let me ask a question. I want to ask a question.
Go.
Does she ask who he's going with or where he's going whenever he goes?
Of course. She'll say, where you going? I'm going for a week. I'll be back. So
he doesn't tell where he's going.
Exactly.
Has she ever had a problem with him not telling?
Of course. And when she pushed the issue, it's a big blow up. It's an argument. So she tries to keep the peace by not, pushing. But it's like, I'm your wife. I have a right to know where you're going and how long you're going to be gone and who you're going with. And he's like, that's none of your business. I'm a grown man. I can do what I want to do. Now that she's grown as well and wants to go hang out with her friends for a week. Oh, I'm going with one of my good girlfriends I grew up with. Oh, no, that's not good enough. Where you going? How long you going to be gone? When you coming back? What? She doesn't want to go.
Okay, and they've been married longer than
years.
Okay, all right. So this is clearly a problem, huh? Okay. So
he tries to get me to validate his side that he's right and she needs to do this. I just chose not to comment on it because I think that it's not fair. Because you don't never tell her where you're going, what you're doing, but you're trying to make her disclose hers. And I don't think that's fair.
Okay. Well, as much as I want to jump in and take any side, I don't have a side to take. I don't have a dog in that fight, but I'm listening to you. This problem is way bigger than him not telling or her not wanting to tell now. This is way deeper than that. And maybe this is what's going to bring whatever that is out. Because if she does take off and go somewhere out of town and he's not okay with that, I can't imagine what kind of stress that's going to put on their relationship.
It's been stressing for a while.
Yeah. So, I would be interested in knowing, how that started. How did they begin? Why would he go out of town, without disclosing where he's going with his wife, and especially if she asks.
Exactly.
And
that was my point to him. Like, you should tell her. Like, I'm grown. I don't need to tell her what I'm doing. I'm like, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Well, even that response, there's an issue there. There definitely be some kind of intervention because clearly they are kind of now. This is one of those cases where I'm not in it. I don't know them, and I'm glad I don't. And thank you for sharing it. And I'm glad you're not disclosing who it is, and that's fine. But let's just say there's clearly a disagreement between them. Correct?
Right.
Okay,
right.
They see things differently. There's some universal principles, there's some points of references, and there might even be some law in place that maybe the two of them need to kind of consider. So, without playing counselor, if we looked at, first of all, the point of reference, how, if you don't want that done to you, it's like, okay, if I could quote my favorite book that says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If you don't want your wife or husband to go out of town without telling you, and if you're going to do it, naturally you're kind of striking a match at the gas station. It's just going to be a boom in just a little bit of time if you're not careful. So,
right.
I guess instead of you wanting to call him out, maybe you should pull him to the side and say, hey, listen, let's try to solve this in a mature way. Okay, I know how you feel. I know what you're thinking. But how do you justify doing something that you don't want her to do, and vice versa? If she doesn't like what's happening, why, you don't do tit for tat. Maybe she, what would be wrong with her? And I'm not saying she should, but let's just try it on for a moment. Maybe she should say, well, I'm going out with, Conchetta, and I'm going to be at this hotel or at Conchetta's house. This is going to be the number you can reach me. This is Conchetta's husband or brother's house or number. This is where I'm going to be. This is my flight. This is where I'm landing. This is where I'm going to go. What would be wrong with her disclosing that information? If nothing else, but to be an example.
And I think she's willing to do that, but I think now that you say what you said, it has been brewing over time. And I think now that, because he
is right now.
Okay. Well, that is usually what happens when things go unchecked. When you start that kind of behavior out, and you don't check it or you don't, attend to it, it's just a matter of time. If you keep putting one piece of cotton on a camel's back, it's just a matter of time before it gets, too heavy. And clearly, if that's something that he did or she was okay with or they didn't discuss in the beginning, it's just now about to be a straw that's going to break that camel's back. So, if these are your friends, you may want to invite them over for some collard greens and cornbread and see if you can't point them in the direction of, universal principles and points of references and see if you can't get them to see that. If their egos are in the way, if someone's saying, I'm grown, I can do that, that's gonna be trouble. And sometimes you have to know which battles to choose. But if you're a good friend of theirs and you want to see them at peace, you might want to try to take a little step without getting in their business. Say, hey, listen, I kind of watched this, and I kind of want you to consider these points of references. If you don't like it, you probably should not try to do it, and see how that works. I'm not going to say I'm for double standards, but there are some things that some people just are not cut out to do. And just because someone does something doesn't mean someone else has to do it. If she's okay with that, if she trusts him, maybe he doesn't have to tell. Maybe, he doesn't. And I mean, that's what it boils down to anyway. And you don't do something just because someone else did it to you. So, there's a lot of things at hand here. And I'm amazed that you want to call him out as opposed to kind of call him in a little closer and say, hey, listen, maybe you should consider this. Because you're probably going to get...
I maybe have used the wrong choice of words. Not to really call him out, but to bring it to his eyesight that you do the same thing. You just go. You don't tell her. You don't disclose what you're doing, where you're going, how long you're going to be gone. You just say, I'll be back, or I'm out, or whatever. So now that she's doing that to you, you're upset. You're angry. But don't you see how she felt when you did it to her?
Mm-hmm. Well, our monk says here, what about calling her out? They're both doing the same thing. And Melanie says, does she not want to disclose the information since he doesn't do it? I think they're kind of, responding to the same thing I'm saying. If she's not wanting to do it just because he's not wanting to do it, that's going to be a problem. And if he's doing it and doesn't want her to do it, there's a problem. So they probably need some counseling. And it's amazing that people that have been, united for 12 years are having these kinds of issues. And, a different type of counselor or, a friend might be able to reach them in different kinds of ways. But I would start with, looking at, principles and points of references and, just, some basic respect and consideration.
Right.
And as much as I'd love to keep
one reason why I really don't, she doesn't have a problem with giving him the information, but it's like, I think, like I said, like now, like you've been doing this for so long, and she has given you, anytime you've asked where she's going, what she discloses that to you. She tells you how long she's going to be on, who she's going with. She goes through the whole gamut. And he's like, okay, you have to tell me all that. All right, that's actually where you were going. So she gives them the full layout. Now, all of a sudden, he don't want you to know where you're going. I want to know where you're going. So it's a problem now.
Of course. It was a problem a long time ago. It's just showing up. But anyway, why don't we try to pick this up next week a little earlier? I started my live stream out tonight in private mode instead of public. So why don't we pick this up the next time I'm on, and I'll be able to call you. Maybe you've made some progress. Maybe you've had an opportunity to speak to them. So I'm going to go ahead and shut down and let you go. But thanks for sharing that. I think it's a good hot topic. And we can talk about it again the next time. You be open to that with me?
I sure will. You know anything from my brother?
Okay. Well, I love you, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I got you.
So we're going to talk again maybe this week, and then definitely next Wednesday we'll pick this one right back up.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I see Miss Ashley just joined me. And hey, Ashley, glad you could join.
Hi, Ashley.
Yeah, Ashley's in the house, and our monk And Winning with Melanie was on with me earlier, and there's at least two more other people that are hanging out, but they're not saying anything. But it's okay. Anyway, you be good. I love you. Take care of yourself, okay?
Love you too.
Okay. Have a good night.
You too.
All right.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Well, there you have it. There is another edition of Swym Pwym. I can't thank you enough. I'll be back again next Wednesday night. Sunday nights are going to be, kind of up in the air for a little while. I'm making some plans to go abroad to work on my third CD project and to write a book as well as learn a foreign language. So I'm putting that into works, and I'm not leaving you on Sunday nights. I'm just kind of modifying it a little bit. But till further notice, I will be back with Swym Pwym, and I'm trying to bring awareness to how we listen, how we pay attention, how we understand, and why it's important to be okay with what is from a universal principle perspective, from a point of reference, as well as even the law. How we have to be okay with certain things, even if we don't like it, in order to minimize chaos. So, till next week, you take good care of yourself. Find somebody you need to say, I love you to. Don't just say it. Show it to them in a very, very special way. And I'm going to invite you to check out my Sunday service that I did on Easter Sunday. It was so much fun. And I chopped up 3 songs and I put them on my on my YouTube channel. So go and check out my YouTube channel and subscribe. And happy belated Easter to you. And until the next time, you be good, take care of yourself, and have a wonderful night. Bye.